Chords and Coffee, number 8. Take you a drink. My mom made this mug. Look at this thing. It is the jaws of mugs. Hold a little bit of everything in there. How we doing? We're going to talk about turnarounds today. Well, what's a turnaround? Well, a turnaround is typically, using music theory, it is a dominant 7 chord or a dominant 7 expression. If you remember our Chords and Coffee lesson number 1, how we talked about a group of chords can essentially serve as a expanded form, using a mathematical term, expression of one chord. What do I mean? Like if we're in the key of E, which as a guitar player, I promise you, if you haven't already, you are going to play blues in E for a pretty solid chunk of your life. Because it seems to be the, if you don't know what else to play, blues in E. And then as you continue to play blues in G and whatever else. But blues in E is a great starting point. So if you're playing and you get to a turnaround, and away we go. So all of that would be considered like a turnaround, because essentially I'm doing something that resets the chord progression back to the start, so we can do it one more time, right? This isn't just precluded to the blues. I mean, all blues-based music, whether it's rock, country, jazz, funk, disco, intriguing bits of EDM, all of that uses some kind of turnaround, right? So as a guitar player, you ought to know a few. So 1, 2, 3, here we go. This is the first one most folks learn. Right? All that is, it's the better part of a G chord, and I'm using my middle finger on the D of the B string, and that's on the 3rd fret, and then ring finger on the 4th fret of the G. And I'm going to go ahead and play the open E string here. And when I say better part of a G chord, you've got a D and you got a B. All you're missing is that G note, and it would be a G triad, right? But we're just doing this little, and most often sliding into that's where it's at, right? In your right hand, you're going to want to be thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And when I say thinking that, while you're practicing that, get that kind of, that triplet thing in your hand, because that's going to give you that kind of swing thing that you're looking for, right? And all this is doing is it's just moving chromatically straight down. So 3 and 4, 2 and 3, 1 and 2, right? And with the open E there, so, and then an E chord. One more time. Right? Then the next part is open A string, 1st fret of the A with index finger, and then this little B7 here, and that is a A string on the 2nd fret with the middle finger, 1st fret of the D, right, index finger, and then ring finger on the 2nd fret of the G, open B if you want to go for broke, throw that pinky there on the F sharp, but most of the time you don't have time for that, so then back into the bluesy thing, right? So that's turnaround number 1, and that's a good one. Here's another one that is based on the same idea. This one, you got 3 notes happening, 1 note stays the same, and what's cool about this device, unlike this is not really movable. I mean, if I was doing blues in G here, if I don't play the open E and anything else, and I just play these notes, right? That works. And a lot of times if I'm playing electric or something, you don't need all the extra hoopla, right? But this idea, you can move this around. And the way that I sort of get my bearings on what tonal center and like to use this on, this is always a flat 7 away from where you want to end up. So in this case, or a whole step down, if you like to think of it that way, I want to end up in E. And so I'm going to start this on a D, right? If I wanted to end up in G, I'd start this on an F, right? Right? So anyway, back to E. Pinky, 5th fret, B. Middle finger, 4th fret, G. Skipping the D. Ring finger, 5th fret of the A, playing just the ones I'm touching. And the key to this is the pinky doesn't move, but these two little boogers right here are traveling down chromatically, just like this guy did, right? So 4th on the G, 5th on the A, right? And then I'm gonna switch them to these two guys just because that, in this instance, feels a little more comfortable. So 3rd with the index finger, skipping the D, middle finger on the 4th of the A, and then 2nd fret on the index finger, middle finger on the 3rd of the A, and then an E chord. So, and then an E, right? What's nice about that is that if somebody's playing with you, and they're playing like E minor pentatonic stuff, right? You're gonna make them sound like a genius whenever and they play that E minor pentatonic over those changes. Which, by the way, as an accompanist, someone who is backing up either a singer or a soloist or whatever, your goal is you want to make them sound like a certified musical genius by what you're laying down. You want to support them in such a way where they lean into freedom and they go for it, right? And if you're doing that, you're doing your job. If you are shaky ground, not only are you not going to elicit an inspired performance out of the person that's soloing, but it won't be as fun. And the listener, the audience, can kind of feel like they're not together, right? So it's funny, as a guitar player, when I was first coming up, I was like, man, I really want to play lead guitar. The truth is, I really feel like a guitar player's merit, prowess, and true test of their ability is measured in how well they play rhythm guitar and how well they accompany others. And that's another reason why it's nice to have several different turnarounds, because if you only got the one, right, or just a couple, and someone else is soloing and you can't give them something underneath to really feel inspired, you should change that. That's what we're doing. So we got 2 down. Here comes the 3rd one. This one is exactly the same as what we just did, but it's got a little extra something. So this one, same deal, but we're going to add the G in the bass. And then on the next chord, it's F sharp in the bass. And then on the 3rd chord, it's F natural. It's an E. So essentially what you have is G6, which is a G with an E in it. F sharp dominant 7, or F sharp 7, which is an F sharp chord with an E in it, to F major 7, which is an F major chord with an E in it, to an E. And you want to talk about sounding like a genius when you're soloing over this. By the way, Stevie Wonder, Overjoyed. He does that, except it's in a different key. Now I know when you're looking at this E.T. looking finger, hand, deformity, whatever's happening here, I know it looks painful. But again, if your hand starts hurting, move your thumb around. It's your thumb's fault 9 times out of 10. If you'll scooch that thumb around, you'd be surprised all sorts of different places that you can get your fingers here. Probably pick your nose better, honestly. Anyway, so you will make whoever's soloing sound like a genius if you do this. So let me spell this out here for you. So same deals we just did before, adding the G to the bottom on the low E 3rd fret. Now we kind of have to leave this here because the index finger is preoccupied with holding the F sharp here on the 2nd fret. And the same deal here. That's the hardest stretch there. And if you can do it in the key of E, you can do this anywhere. Right? So, one more. Okay, so this one is much easier. This is this guy here. And this is a pretty jazzy deal here. The only thing slightly jazzier than this is this. You know what? I'll show them both to you. So this is a over B, And this in of itself, so think of it as an F chord slid up to here, right? So over a B. So let me give this to you real quick. I'm not even holding down at this juncture the high E string. I'm just starting with index finger on the 5th fret of the B, middle finger on the 6th fret of the G, pinky on the 7th fret of the D, and then ring finger on the 7th fret of the low E. This is one of my favorite expressions of a dominant 7 chord. This sort of would be a functional substitution for a B7. This is A over B. If you want to hear a really cool usage of this, it's all over Marvin Gaye's What's Going On album. He uses that 4/5 thing a lot. Also, Marcus King does a killer cover of This Old Cowboy, Marshall Tucker tune, which is a really, really cool tune. It's jammy, jazzy, southern. It's just great. And if you hadn't heard that song, you should check it out. Marcus King's version, though, that's the one. And has that kind of sound a lot. For some reason, that sound just really, it just has a lot of longevity just built into it, right? So this guy, what you're going to do is you're going to flatten this out. Go ahead and catch that high E on the 5th fret, right? You with me still? It's like an F chord. I moved this over here to catch that 7th fret, the B on the 7th fret of the low E, then got my pinky in the place where this guy was, right? Okay? And then now these dudes are just going to go back a half step. So good. And then that resolves to E. How do you use that? So you get to the end of a tune. Right? Or something, I don't know. But so good. All right, one more, because I told you a little extra. This guy right here. So index finger on the 7th fret of the B, of the low E, sorry. And then middle finger, we're going to skip the A, go straight to the D, 7th fret. And then ring finger, 8th fret of the G, pinky, 8th fret of the B. This is that B7 sharp 5, that kind of augmented thing. Or sometimes don't even play the bass note. Move your index to where your middle finger was, and then put your middle on the high E. That's a very commonly used jazz chord. It's from a whole tone scale. We'll get to that later. But that's another great one. Stray Cats like to use that chord a lot. That kind of thing, right? So we got this guy, then this dude here, and then this. There ought to be a turnaround in there that you like, and if all you do is just got one down, where you're like, I like that one, I'm just going to work that one, then this was worth it. I sure do appreciate you watching these. Hey, thank you so much for all your kind words on the last lesson. That was a tribute to my father-in-law. That meant a lot to me. Thank you for that. Thank you for being a part of this community that we're building. If you've got any questions, comments, or insights, I'd love to hear it. You probably know a turnaround that I don't know. I guarantee it. Comment it below. I'd love to talk about it sometime. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.